Ever find yourself reaching for that big glass of orange juice alongside your morning oatmeal, thinking you're making a super healthy choice to lower your cholesterol? Or maybe you're into the whole fermented food craze, sipping on kombucha or kefir or adding yogurt to your daily routine. But have you ever stopped to wonder if these health foods are really doing what you think they are? Or if they're just another clever way for big food companies to sneak more sugar into your diet? And what about that staple of so many meals, bread? From your lunchtime sandwich to the main course at your favorite restaurant, have you been unintentionally misled about its health benefits ever since you were a kid? How long has this carefully crafted, often misleading marketing been going on with these everyday products? How much has our culture, with all its ingrained food beliefs, been messing with our health and those natural sweets we all love so much? Just what exactly is fructose, and how bad is it for us? We're going to tackle all of this and more as we count down our list of the top 10 most harmful foods that people think are healthy. Now, you might find some things on this list that you strongly disagree with, but please just hear me out for a few minutes. Let's really think about this together. Number 10, fruit juice. Let's dive right into the world of juice. And I'm not just talking about your standard morning orange juice here. We're casting a wide net over apple juice, cranberry juice, pineapple juice, grape juice, you name it. These seemingly innocent drinks are often swimming in sugars, fructose, glucose, sucrose. But here's the real kicker. The way our bodies handle these sugars from juice is often very different and not in a good way. Take glucose, for example. When you drink juice, it hits your bloodstream like a freight train because there's no fiber to slow it down. When you juice a fruit, you're essentially throwing out all that beneficial fiber. What happens next is a rapid spike in your blood sugar levels, followed by a big release of insulin, assuming your pancreas is still functioning well. And when insulin rushes in, it acts like a storage commander, telling your body to stash away that extra sugar as body fat, leading you down a path that's far from healthy. But wait, there's more to this sugary story. Let's talk about fructose. This sneaky little sugar doesn't trigger a huge insulin response right away, so you might think it's not so bad, but don't be fooled. Fructose heads straight to your liver, bypassing many of the normal regulatory steps. It's like it has a VIP pass to the liver party, and here's where it causes trouble. It messes with your mitochondria, those tiny powerhouses inside your cells that we depend on for energy. Fructose in the liver acts like a disruptive guest, trashing the place and leaving your mitochondria in disarray. Less repair, less replacement, more cellular chaos. And what's the liver's last resort when it's overwhelmed with this sugary fructose mess? It converts it to fat, and not just any fat. We're talking about that infamous fatty liver. Nowadays, fructose is a leading cause of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, essentially clogging up those vital mitochondria. Now, here's the real punchline. Juice is essentially soda's well-dressed cousin. Sure, it might have a few vitamins floating around, but underneath that innocent exterior, it's often packing the same high levels of sugar as a can of Coke or Pepsi. For example, orange juice can have around 49 grams of fructose per liter, while Coca-Cola has about 55 grams per liter. And when it comes to glucose, orange juice has around 25 grams per liter, while Coke has about 25.7 grams per liter. Now, even if orange juice had slightly less sugar, the bigger issue remains. Many people struggle to process these concentrated sugars efficiently. And here's a critical point. Have you actually been tested to see how well you process sugars? An A1C test, which many doctors use, can miss up to 70% of these problems, according to the American Diabetes Association, ADA. Even fasting glucose tests miss over half, around 55% of people with these issues, according to the ADA. So, thinking you're in the clear without proper testing is like thinking you can handle extreme heat because you once felt warm. Get the right tests. And there's a cultural myth around orange juice, like it's some kind of health elixir. Let's also talk about the addictive nature of sugar, especially fructose. It can hijack your brain's reward pathways, making you crave more. So, why is juice a problem? It's the lack of fiber. We'll keep coming back to this fiber story as we go through our list of deceptively unhealthy foods. Number 9, oatmeal. Now when I say oatmeal, I'm not talking about the old-fashioned tough steel-cut oats that take a good half hour to cook. Those can actually be a decent option. I'm focusing on the quick, flimsy, instant 5-minute flaky stuff that looks about as substantial as a $3 bill. The core issue here is how these oats are processed. Food processing is a key theme you'll hear me mention a lot. It's like taking a classic, well-built machine and swapping its powerful engine for a weak, inefficient one. These processed oats have a much larger surface area because they're ground up so finely. Think about the terms meal, like cornmeal or oatmeal. It all refers to ground up grain, often almost powdered. Here's where it really matters. The carbohydrates in this processed oatmeal digest incredibly quickly, much faster than nature intended. This leads to a rapid spike in your blood sugar, and as we discussed with juice, a blood sugar spike triggers an insulin release. Insulin acts like a traffic cop, directing all that quickly digested sugar straight into your fat cells. More processed carbs mean bigger sugar spikes, more insulin released, and ultimately, more body fat. It's a vicious cycle. I used to have debates with people who swore by their instant oatmeal as the healthiest breakfast. Then I started suggesting they simply check their blood sugar levels before and after eating that bowl of oatmeal. Guess what? Those debates stopped very quickly. Let's not forget the marketing spin. Just like orange juice is touted as a cholesterol-lowering hero, instant oatmeal often gets the same treatment. But the whole cholesterol story is far more complex and less clear-cut than many people believe. Even if oatmeal did have some impact on cholesterol, its significant negative effects on blood sugar, insulin levels, and body fat are far more concerning. It's like focusing on the color of your car while the engine is on fire. And let's be honest, does instant oatmeal really taste that good on its own? It often tastes bland and mushy. So, what do people do? They load it up with fruits, cinnamon, and, you guessed it, more added sugars like brown sugar, just like they do with orange juice. There's a cultural myth that oatmeal is the breakfast of champions, but picture someone starting their day with 2 glasses of orange juice and a big bowl of sugary oatmeal. What do you think that's doing to their blood sugar? It's likely skyrocketing, potentially causing inflammation in their arteries, and they're doing this every single morning thinking they're being healthy. Number 8, bread. Again, I told you some of these might be controversial, but stick with me. Bread in many ways is like that cousin of oatmeal and orange juice we just discussed. It's often mostly just processed carbohydrates, stripped of its natural fiber and puffed up to have a much larger surface area. Now, some people might think they're being smart by reaching for whole grain bread, just like the commercials suggest. But this is where it gets tricky. Whole grain bread, whether it's whole wheat, whole rye, or any other type of whole grain bread, has this health halo surrounding it, but its effect on your blood sugar is often only marginally better than white bread. We're talking about a glycemic index, GI, of around 50 to 55 for many whole wheat and whole rye breads compared to white bread's GI of 65 to 70. And here's a surprising fact. Even plain table sugar has a GI of around 50. So, in some cases, whole grain bread can raise your blood sugar almost as quickly as or even faster than pure sugar. Bread has deep cultural roots. It's a staple in countless cuisines and a symbol of community. But the wheat we use today has been significantly altered over the years, genetically modified to increase yields for mass consumption. This modern wheat, once processed into bread, is often a shadow of its former self, low in fiber and high in easily digestible carbohydrates. In the past, non-modified wheat had less carbs and more fiber, which helped slow down the absorption of sugars, making bread a more friendly food for your body. But finding bread like that today is like searching for a unicorn, so the bread many of us eat today isn't the wholesome, hearty staple it once was. It's more like a wolf in sheep's clothing, dressed up in whole grains but often packing a significant sugary punch that can send your blood sugar on an unwanted roller coaster ride. Number 7. Fruit. Fruit is often called nature's candy, but it's important to understand that it's not always as innocent as it seems. When fruit hits your taste buds, it triggers the reward center in your brain, the nucleus accumbens, releasing dopamine and making you feel good. Have you ever tried to eat just one small piece of sweet pineapple, a single blueberry, or just one grape? It's often surprisingly difficult. Now, I understand that many people consider themselves fruit lovers, and you might be skeptical of what I'm saying. But consider this. Many of the people I work with are dealing with prediabetes or diabetes. They understand that if they're sitting around all day munching on fruits, it's like pouring fuel on their metabolic fire, and you might think, well, that's not me. But how do you know for sure? A staggering 90% of people with prediabetes don't even know they have it, and about half of all adults over 18 do have it. So, it might be time to consider getting an oral glucose tolerance test or using a continuous glucose monitor to see how your body really handles fruit. It's also concerning that many doctors, around 2/3 to 3/4 according to some research, don't know how to properly diagnose prediabetes. Now, I'm not saying all fruits are equally bad. Just like people, fruits come in a wide variety. Some are naturally higher in sugar, like mangoes, pineapples, many types of apples, grapes, pears, and overripe bananas. Unlike some of the other culprits we've discussed, fruits do contain fiber. Fiber helps slow down the absorption of sugar, acting like a traffic controller on a busy road. The fiber also means that some of the fructose makes it to your lower gut, where it can interact with your gut microbiome, which is significant. Don't get me wrong, fruits do have some benefits. They're packed with phytonutrients, which are plant-based compounds, and some of these can be good for you. However, fruits contain so many different chemicals that it's like a crowded room. We don't fully understand what each one is doing or to what extent. Some might be helpful, while others might be causing unexpected issues. So, when we look at the big picture, it's all about the sugars in these natural treats. It's a dance with sweetness, and sometimes the music is a little too loud for our metabolic health. Number 6. Smoothies. Oh, I actually cringe a little saying this one because I know how many people believe smoothies are the epitome of health. Smoothies. I can already imagine the angry comments typing out. My smoothie is great. You don't know what you're talking about. But please hear me out before you grab your digital pitchforks. Just last week, we had Dr. Robert Lustig, a renowned nutrition scientist and food activist, on our channel. He shared some important truths about smoothies. He said, and I quote, "Smoothies masticate the fiber in the fruit." What he means by that is that the blending process essentially shreds the insoluble fiber, those long, stringy parts of the fruit, into tiny pieces. Now, what does that mean in simple terms? It means that blending fruit for a smoothie breaks down the fiber, essentially turning it into something much more like juice, and as we discussed earlier, juice is where a lot of the trouble begins because you're losing the beneficial effects of that intact fiber. You're essentially paving the way for that fructose to head straight to your liver without any buffer. And what does it do there? It wreaks havoc, disrupting your liver's mitochondrial function. As we've talked about, mitochondria are crucial for energy production and overall cellular health. Fructose can negatively impact several key enzyme pathways involved in mitochondrial function, repair, and renewal. This can contribute to the development of fatty liver disease. Let's not forget about the glucose in the fruit. Without the fiber to slow its absorption, it acts like a racehorse out of the gate, causing a rapid spike in your blood sugar, leading to all the downstream problems we've already discussed with insulin and fat storage. You see, blending up a smoothie is still a form of processing that fruit. It's similar to what big food corporations do, just on a smaller scale in your kitchen. If you're one of these smoothie enthusiasts who believes you're sipping on liquid health, you might want to double-check your blood sugar levels, especially after drinking one. I've seen it happen time and time again. Patients come in with their daily smoothie ritual, thinking they're doing something great for their body, but they're actually sending their blood sugar on a wild ride. Don't just assume smoothies are safe, it's simple. Test, don't guess. Some smoothies can be healthy, especially those made with mostly vegetables and a small amount of low-sugar fruit, but many are not. What smoothies often do is allow you to pack a huge amount of carbohydrates and other nutrients into a drinkable form that you can gulp down quickly, far more than you would typically eat if you were consuming the whole fruit. And remember what we talked about with fructose. That sweet little troublemaker has addictive properties. Research shows that fructose can stimulate your appetite and cravings more than glucose or other sugars. So, when you're blending up that seemingly healthy smoothie, you might also be stirring up a cocktail of cravings. Number 5. Kombucha. Kombucha. Now we're venturing into the realm of fermented foods, and kombucha is often the star of that show, thanks to its supposed benefits for the gut microbiome, and there's no doubt that our gut biome plays a significant role in our overall health. This fermented tea has gained a lot of popularity because people often equate fermentation with health benefits. But here's the catch. Our understanding of the gut microbiome is still relatively new. It only really became a major area of health research in the last decade or two. Suddenly, everyone jumped on the prebiotic and probiotic bandwagon, counting bacterial colonies like stars in the sky. But it turned out that many of these supposedly beneficial colonies were inactive, like hibernating bears, and many never really woke up and established themselves in the gut. The industry hasn't made huge strides since then, so sipping on kombucha specifically for gut health is still a bit of a shot in the dark. And here's where it gets tricky. The sugar content in kombucha can vary wildly. Some brands aren't too bad. For example, GT's Original often has around 6 to 10 grams of sugar per 12-ounce serving. But I've seen other brands in the grocery store, like some varieties of honest tea with a whopping 35 grams of sugar per serving. That's a sugar bomb in a bottle, far beyond what I'd recommend most people consume in one sitting. I generally recommend aiming for around 100 grams of total glycemic carbohydrates per day for many people. This single serving of some kombuchas can be over a third of that in just pure sugar. The big issue with kombucha comes down to this. The scientific evidence supporting its purported health benefits is still very limited. Take the only clinical trial I could find to date, done in 2023 by Mendelssohn and their team. It's fresh off the press, but it has some significant limitations. First of all, it was a very small study, with only 11 participants divided into 2 groups. That's about the size of a small family gathering. In the world of scientific research, that's like trying to judge a chili cook-off with only a single spoonful of chili. Group 1 consumed 240 milliliters, about 1 serving, of kombucha with dinner every day for a month. Group 2 received a placebo that tasted like kombucha. Now, here's a major red flag. The kombucha group's average fasting blood sugar dropped from a very high 162 mAh to around 114 mAh. Wait a minute, an average of 162 for the group. One participant even had a fasting blood sugar of 260. I have hundreds and hundreds of patients with full-blown diabetes, and I don't have many with routine fasting blood sugars that high. This raises serious questions about the researchers' understanding of healthy versus unhealthy metabolism. This study has more holes in it than a fishing net. Furthermore, let's look at who was involved in this research. One of the designers was from Symbiotic Health, a company that sells probiotic products, including kombucha. The other was a high-ranking member of the International Association of Probiotics and Prebiotics. Talk about a potential conflict of interest. It's like asking a barbecue pitmaster if meat is good for you or a vegan if plants are healthy. You can probably guess their answer before you even ask. Then there's the placebo group. Remember, the kombucha group's blood sugar dropped by 40 points. Well, the placebo group's blood sugar also dropped by 20 points. This makes you wonder if it was the kombucha itself that caused the effect, or if it was something else, like the Hawthorne effect, where people change their behavior simply because they know they're being observed in a study. Maybe it was just the act of sipping a large drink with dinner every night. Interestingly, all the drinks, both the kombucha and the placebo, were donated by Craft Kombucha, so the whole study is more biased than a rigged home cooking contest. It was designed, analyzed, and written by people who stood to gain financially if kombucha looked good, which it did in the headlines. But you need to dig a little deeper than just the catchy headlines. So, what does all this mean for the kombucha believer? This single flawed study with its seemingly impressive results is just one small piece of the puzzle. It's not definitive proof. And in the world of health, where everyone is searching for the next big thing, the next easy shortcut to wellness, it's easy to get swept up in the hype and those enticing study headlines. But for now, the true benefits of kombucha remain about as clear as mud in a swamp. We're just scratching the surface of understanding its effects. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll discover significant benefits, or maybe it will turn out to be just another fleeting health trend. Number 4. Greek yogurt. Oh, I know some of you might want to throw bananas at me for this one. But before you completely label Greek yogurt as a health food saint, let's take a peek behind the curtain at some clever marketing tactics. You know when they prominently slap those air-quoted words low fat on the label, it's often like a magician's misdirection, drawing your attention away from the fact that they've often loaded up on sugar, and sometimes even more salt, to compensate for the lack of fat. It's a classic bait and switch. Now, not all Greek yogurt has gone astray. The kind with no sugar added is a good sign. It might actually be the real deal, packed with protein and healthy fats, a nutritional powerhouse. But then there's this whole performance about fermentation being the magic key to a happy gut and overall health. As we've discussed with kombucha, while your gut microbiome is undeniably important, the question remains. Does Greek yogurt contain the right kind of live cultures, and do they actually make a significant difference once they reach your gut? Again, the scientific evidence is still not entirely clear. This isn't just about Greek yogurt, it applies to the whole fermented food trend, kombucha, kefir, regular yogurt, you name it. Everyone acknowledges the importance of the gut biome, but we're still largely in the dark about which of these foods truly help, how they help, and to what extent. It's like trying to lasso a ghost. Now, there's definitely potential for improving gut health to positively impact conditions like diabetes and mental health, but until we have more robust long-term research specifically on the effects of different fermented foods on the gut microbiome, we're still largely shooting in the dark. The solid scientific evidence just isn't there yet. Food manufacturers, the big food industry, they know how to play this game. They use health claims like fermented or probiotic to lure you into buying sugary products, like those fruit-flavored yogurts that are often packed with added sugars. They know you're looking for a healthy choice, and yogurt has that healthy image. They hook you with the sugar, which then triggers your brain's reward system, making you crave more. So, you get this double whammy: the perceived health benefit and the addictive pull of sugar. If you're one of the significant portion of adults struggling with blood sugar control or carbohydrate metabolism, you need to tread very carefully with flavored Greek yogurt. If it's plain, organic, and has no added sugar, then you might be in the clear, but you absolutely must read the label carefully. Speaking of yogurt and sugars, let's look at some examples. Some plain Greek yogurts, like those with 0% fat and no added sugar, can be relatively low in naturally occurring sugars, around 1 to 4 grams per serving. But then, on the other end of the spectrum, you have those flavored varieties with fruit on the bottom or mixed in, which can pack a whopping 18, 19, or even 20 grams of added sugar in the same serving size. That's a significant sugar load you might not be aware of. So, when you're reaching for that Greek yogurt, don't just grab and go. Take a moment to check those nutrition facts. It could be the difference between a health hero and a sugar villain in disguise. Number 3, pasta and grain products. Well, wait a minute. Didn't we just cover grain products back when we were talking about bread? We did touch on bread, but let's look at this from a slightly different angle, specifically focusing on pasta. Biologically, and in terms of their impact on your health, yes, pasta and bread are essentially cousins. Both are often primarily processed carbohydrates, stripped of much of their natural fiber. But when you're navigating the grocery store or perusing a restaurant menu, pasta often plays a slightly different role in your perception and choices. Let's talk numbers for a moment. A seemingly small 100-gram serving of cooked pasta can pack around 75 grams of glucose with a glycemic index, GI, of around 55. Remember, that's often higher than pure table sugar. Now imagine that big bowl of pasta sitting in your stomach. It's like launching your insulin levels into orbit, and as we've discussed, that insulin surge encourages your body to store fat, perpetuating that unhealthy cycle of carbs, insulin, body fat, and more cravings. Meanwhile, your arteries can become inflamed, and who hasn't been fooled by the whole wheat pasta trick? Hopefully, by this point, you recognize it as often just a sleight-of-hand marketing tactic. The glycemic index of whole wheat pasta is often only slightly lower than white pasta, maybe around 48 compared to 55. That's often like choosing between getting bitten by a rattlesnake or a copperhead. Neither is a particularly good option. The whole pasta predicament isn't just about spaghetti and fettuccine. It extends to other basic grain products like pizza crust. So, the next time you're eyeing that pasta dish or slicing into a pizza, remember it's not just comfort food. It's comfort food that often comes with a hidden metabolic sting in its tail. Be wise, look beyond the enticing marketing and cultural hype, and keep those nutrition facts in mind. Pasta is often playing the same carb-loaded, insulin-spiking, fat-depositing game as bread. It's just wearing a different culinary costume. Number 2, honey. Oh boy, I know a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this one. Honey. Some folks will argue vehemently. You can't criticize honey, it's nature's nectar. It's good for colds packed with beneficial compounds. And sure, you can find some studies that highlight certain beneficial properties of honey, like a dab in lemon tea for a sore throat or a spoonful in cold remedies. It does contain some phytosterols and other interesting chemicals, but let's not sugarcoat it. Pun intended. At its core, honey is a potent combination of fructose and glucose. Picture this. In just 100 grams of honey, you're getting around 39 grams of fructose and 31 grams of glucose. That's essentially a sugar bomb disguised in a sweet, natural package. Remember when we talked about the fructose in orange juice? Honey is playing the same game, but often without even the minimal fiber that some fruits contain to slightly slow down its absorption. Let's focus on fructose first. Leading food science experts like Dr. Robert Lustig have emphasized that the fiber in whole fruit acts almost like an antidote to the potentially negative effects of fructose. But when you're dealing with honey, or juices, or, hate to say it again, many smoothies, you're essentially mainlining fructose without that natural buffer, and what does that fructose do? It takes a direct route straight to your liver, bypassing many of the usual sugar regulation points. Once in the liver, it can disrupt mitochondrial function, decrease their ability to replicate and repair themselves. If your liver's energy powerhouses aren't functioning correctly, what does your liver do? It often switches to storage mode, leading to the development of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. Thanks to our modern, high-fructose diets, fatty liver is now outpacing even alcoholic cirrhosis as a leading cause of liver disease. Now, that was the fructose. Let's talk about the glucose in honey, around 32 grams per 100 gram serving. That's not just a little bit of sweetness, it's a significant blood sugar rocket fuel. If you take a taste of honey and check your blood sugar before and after, you'll likely see a noticeable spike. So, when you're reaching for that honey jar, think twice. It's not just a simple, wholesome treat, it's a concentrated fructose-glucose cocktail, often wearing a misleading health halo. In the end, honey can be a bit of a sweet-talking trickster. Number 1. Artificial sweeteners. Now, this one might really make some of you raise an eyebrow. Some people will cheer me on, while others might think I'm completely wrong, viewing artificial sweeteners as incredibly dangerous. It seems like people often have very strong opinions, either vehemently for or fiercely against non-nutritive sweeteners. I remember back when I was at Johns Hopkins, there was a scare about saccharin being linked to bladder cancer in lab rats. But when you really looked at the details, to reach that level of risk, you'd have to consume an absurd, practically impossible amount of saccharin every single day, like trying to drink the entire ocean. It just wasn't a realistic concern for human consumption at typical levels. So, let's consider another perspective. Some people are quick to demonize non-nutritive sweeteners like sucralose. Yes, there were some early studies suggesting it might cause insulin resistance or slightly bump up blood sugar in a glucose challenge. However, the overall evidence for these significant negative effects at typical consumption levels is still not very strong. So, why even include artificial sweeteners on a list of harmful foods? If they're not as directly dangerous as, say, mainlining fructose, what's the concern? Well, here's the thing. It often comes down to addiction and the potential for these sweeteners to act as a gateway drug to other unhealthy sweet foods. Let's go back to discussion about addiction. He actually called sugar his gateway drug, leading to other substance abuse issues. When you look at the brain's reward pathways, the nucleus accumbens, the amygdala, the ventral tegmental area, these are the same areas that light up with the consumption of both fructose and non-nutritive sweeteners, similar to how they respond to addictive substances. I've had my own experience with these sweeteners. Back when I was a marathon runner in the Deep South, after grueling runs in the heat, I would often guzzle down a liter or more of Diet Coke. Not my proudest health decisions, plain water would have been much better. These days, I've significantly cut back, but the craving for that sweetness is still there. It's a real physiological response, and it can have that gateway drug effect for some people, making them crave more and more sweet things. One thing that has helped me reduce my sweet tooth is Gymnema sylvestre, an ancient Ayurvedic remedy that can temporarily block the taste of sweetness. After taking Gymnema, even Diet Coke can taste metallic and unpleasant. It's even known as the sugar killer. So, while I still occasionally enjoy a Coke Zero, I'm not consuming it in the same quantities as before. So, when you're reaching for that artificial sweetener, think twice. It might not be a direct metabolic poison like consuming massive amounts of fructose or glucose, but it can still play a subtle game with your brain's craving center, potentially keeping those pathways active and leading to other unhealthy choices. It's like dancing with a shadow. You might not see the immediate harm, but it could still be subtly influencing your steps.